This afternoon we're joined by baseball head coach Will Sanborn. Later today, Coach, you're about to begin your indoor practice season. 5:30 p.m. practice tonight. What do you expect from these guys coming in?
Well, we're pretty excited to get going. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I've been doing this for a while, but it's like opening day. You know, it's exciting stuff. We're ready to get started. We really expect these guys to be ready to perform on the first practice. They've been preparing for this really since the end of fall baseball, in the weight room and throwing and swinging the bat, and that's really heated up here in the last month or so, both at home over Christmas break and now while we're back to school. So we really expect them to be in baseball shape and ready to go and ready to get this process started.
Now, when you talk about baseball shape, maybe some people don't really know what that means. What do you define that as?
Well, first of all, these guys have been in the weight room pretty hard since we finished fall baseball. So they should be in real good physical condition. When I talk about baseball shape, it's that component plus their arms should be ready. They began a 9-week long toss program in the middle of November. So their arms should be ready to go. They should have been swinging the bat right along, which they have been, so we don't have guys developing blisters the first week swinging the bat. So it should be good.
What kind of things, I know, Coach, you're very organized. What kind of things do you have planned for tonight for drills and how do you kick off the practice session?
Sure. Well, as a coaching staff, we really think that's our role. Come game day, the players play and the coaches coach, but it's our job to make sure things are well prepared, make sure we're covering every aspect of the game, and that really begins tonight. I mean, one of the things we try to do in every practice is to touch on every facet of the game. So we'll certainly be swinging the bat a lot tonight. Our pitchers will begin their drill work. They'll actually throw their first bullpen tonight. We'll do a lot of defensive stuff. We'll do some base running. So we'll pretty much hit every aspect and kind of build here from day one.
Now, a lot of returning players, so these guys know what to expect. How does that help practice flow maybe a little bit better when you have all these returning guys?
Well, I think it helps it tremendously because we really use our players as almost an extension of the coaching staff, and the veteran guys are expected to step up and really teach the St. Joseph's way, if you want to call it that, to the younger guys. So it should flow pretty smoothly. We should be able to hit the ground running. It certainly is different from being outside as we were during fall ball, but we get a lot done in our space in the gym. It works great for us.
Well, I think that's an understatement to say that you guys get a lot done indoors. For some people who might be watching this, recruits or high school players, what would you say are some of the differences between a high school indoor practice and an indoor practice here at St. Joe's?
Well, the way we try to do it, we try to run it so that there's not a second that's unaccounted for. There's no standing around. Everything we do has a perfect purpose. There's a lot of hop from one drill or one segment to the next. And it's a pretty intense 2 or 3 hours that we're in there. It's not the laid-back, leisurely pace that some guys are, really feel that maybe they come from that at the high school level. We're really trying to get ready for some pretty tough opponents on this spring trip, so we've got a lot to accomplish in a short period of time.
Of course, one of the challenges of New England college baseball is the fact that you don't get outdoors before you play. You might get one practice outside if travel goes as it's supposed to, but this year the Monks travel to Endicott for a single game. It's kind of a precursor to that spring trip on March 2nd, so that kind of shortens that window a little bit. So the first time you'll be outside, you'll be playing against the Gulls, a really tough opponent. How do you, the Monks have traditionally been pretty successful on their spring trips and their first foray outdoors. How do you think that you get these guys so well prepared inside?
Well, one of the things is you focus on the fundamentals. I mean, that's what being indoors tends to have you do. The other thing is we don't make a lot of excuses about it. You you can make excuses about having to prepare inside, but you know, the bottom line is that you know, you're out there on a level playing field that day, and you got to compete. Endicott's got a great program. Something we're new that we're trying is to see if we can get a game or two before the spring trip. We'll see how it works. We'll see what the weather is like on March 2nd down there. Hopefully it'll be a nice warm day.
Now, you mentioned in previous conversations that you have 3 themes that you're really focusing on this spring. What could you say about that?
Yeah, we're really trying to get our guys to, you know, focus on the team aspect as we always do, and I think it's helpful to kind of have a framework going in. So we're really focusing on sacrifice, discipline, and the process here. We've asked our players, you know, what 3 things are you guys going to give up? What things are you going to sacrifice so that this team can be successful this year? And it's an interesting thought process to have guys start to think about that and then try to combine that with their goals. And we've got to have discipline on the field and off the field, and particularly in practice, so that we are prepared. And then the final part of it is just understanding that it is a process, and to enjoy the process. We certainly enjoy game day. We certainly enjoy tournament time, and you know, fortunate enough to get to the regional and maybe even beyond. We certainly enjoy that, but you want to come in and enjoy every day of the process of getting ready, and I think that's something that is a little unique about our guys. You know, they don't dread practice. They love getting out there every day and strapping it on and playing the game they love with the guys that they enjoy playing it with. So.
Coach, you're about to start your 21st season, which is quite a stretch. You've been here for a long time. You played here, assistant coach, now the head coach for 21 seasons. What are some things about your coaching style as far as like an indoor practice season may have changed over the years, may have kind of morphed into a different philosophy? What would you say would apply to that?
One thing that comes to mind, and some of the alums will sometimes ask me, we used to do a really strenuous, intense preseason conditioning, where those first couple of weeks we'd be outside running up the hill in the
like
cold
a boot
and the
camp.
snow. It was like a boot camp.
Yeah.
And that was basically the focus of it. In fact, we weren't in the gym doing a lot of baseball. It was just a ton of conditioning stuff. It had a lot of benefits, you know, bringing the team together from a mental aspect. You certainly had to be mentally tough just to survive the week. In fact, we used to print T-shirts, you know, I survived conditioning. But over the years, with the rule changes as far as when you can start and how long we have to prepare, we just have taken more of a long-term view of our strength and conditioning. And really our guys are involved in that all year round. So that, you know, we expect them, and they are in pretty darn good shape when we start. So we can get right in there and start on baseball things. I think that's one of the bigger changes. I think, you know, obviously things you do evolve over the years, but you know, I think we've always come to practice with the idea that we want to leave a better player than when we came in. And that certainly hasn't changed over the years, and that philosophy was here a long time before I became a coach. So.
Now, with this program, expectations are always high, and it seems like every year the bar is raised that much more. This season ranked 14th in the country in a pair of preseason polls, and I know those are worth the paper they're written on, but still it causes expectations and perhaps even in some people's minds could go as far as to say pressure. Also, some individuals are getting some preseason accolades and things like that. What does that do for the team dynamic?
Well, I think one of the things is you have to approach it in the right way. We never talk about those things as a team. We don't get wrapped up in those things. We don't make too big a deal out of them. You know, I never thought the preseason poll meant a lot when our team wasn't in it. So I'm not going to start to think now that it means a lot. I think it's more of a reflection of what last year's team accomplished, and you know, this is a new year, and certainly we've got a good club, but you got to go out there and play the games, and you got to take things one step at a time. I think, you know, we don't put a lot of pressure on ourselves internally, just because I think we have the right outlook on all of that. That'll take care of itself. And again, that's part of the reason we're just, hey, let's focus on the process. Don't get too far ahead of yourselves. Don't be thinking about anything but today's practice towards the first game with Endicott. That's what we try to do. So.
And Coach, about 25 practices before the Endicott game. How do you build? What is the progression within those practices from week to week?
Yeah, well, everything has to be a progression, and there's no time to mess it up, because with only 25 practices to get ready to play Endicott, and then further on the type of schedule that we begin to play down in Florida, you got to be well prepared, and we don't want to come back from any game feeling that we missed anything. So the entire thing's a progression from what our hitters are doing and how we try to progress through that week by week. We have virtually every day of that planned out, so we know what we're going to focus on each day, to building up our pitching staff and how we're going to develop them. We spent a ton of time, Coach Merrill and I, here over the Christmas break, really kind of revamping a little bit what we're doing with our pitchers. And it all is that, that progression to playing those games, and then you have to know how to improve during the game as well, and learn from the games, and just continue on. The idea is that you're really trying to peak at the end, but you're trying to make sure you don't miss anything when you get started here. So.
And some folks would make talk radio kind of stuff about professional teams. What the identity of a team is. Sometimes that takes a while to develop. Last year, you would say probably the identity or strength of the team would have been pitching. What kind of things would you say would go towards that idea this year?
Well, I think one of my beliefs is that all has to kind of happen on its own, and you can't put the cart before the horse and start thinking too much about those things, because that's all just kind of guesswork, and that's basically what it is. So I think what you have to try to do is allow each team, each group, to kind of find its own identity, and realize that takes some time. It's interesting at this point in the season, our first practice for the spring here. Our team's a long way from being, kind of a well-oiled machine or even a well-united bunch. A lot of these guys are still getting to know each other a little bit. So it's going to take some time. Every year is different, and I think you do yourself a lot of good by not trying to push that too much. There are a lot of ways to win baseball games, and the biggest way is consistency. So that's what we're going to try to shoot for in every facet of the game. If we can be consistent in every area, so often in baseball you beat yourself. So if we can avoid that, that certainly helps a lot.
Now, what's your favorite part of practice? What are some drills that you really love? What are some things that you would say you really look forward to about a practice?
I think the whole thing. I think, from my standpoint, one of the things I enjoy at this point is seeing, how a lot of the things we do have just kind of become part of the culture and part of the tradition, and I don't have to do nearly as much teaching or talking as I used to, because the players know how things work here. And there's a certain consistency to that. So that's fun for me, just to see a group of guys coming in who are, number one, really well prepared to start, and then who really are working towards a common goal and are willing to, bust it and put in a great effort, and make sure that they grab a hold of the process. So that's kind of that enjoyment that you get from hard work and preparing well, and then you get to hopefully see the preparation pay off.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks so much for your time, and have a great practice tonight.
Thanks.